At this moment, Wan Tuong only indifferently stretched out his hand, yet he easily and firmly pinched the longsword that was rushing through the wind. His voice was filled with contempt mixed with ridicule, the corners of his mouth curling up. Has humanity become so weak that they have to let a woman step forward to defend them? Wan Tuong sneered, leaning in, his arrogant laughter echoing endlessly as he deliberately teased, my lady, are you already so impatient that you want to follow me to the bridal chamber? His arrogant laughter made everyone feel a heavy sense of humiliation. Their eyes grew bloodshot as if about to spit fire, yet they could only stand by and watch the beauty pushed to the brink of demonic madness without anyone daring to step forward, with helplessness, anger, and shame rising in everyone's hearts at the same time. Right at that moment, with a sudden phut sound, a stream of white spit flew straight into the center of Wan Tuong's eye. The person standing opposite him was none other than Kwang Nuoc Bang, her face full of disdain as she said coldly, those two words, bridal chamber, coming from the mouth of someone like you, are an insult to our Hongingayat city. I, Kwang Nuoc Bang, am the daughter of Sonin. How could I ever deign to marry an arrogant sea-race member like you? The anger inside Wan Tuong instantly rushed to his head, and with his 5 fingers wide open, he fiercely lunged to grab her neck. Just as the situation suddenly took a turn, an arm reached out from the side like lightning, directly knocking his wrist aside. The person who had just appeared was none other than Lai Van Tiu, shielding Kwang Nuoc Bang behind him with one hand. He spoke in a cold voice, Wan Tuong, you've finally showed up. How dare you make a move against Miss Nuoc Bang right here? Let's see if you can walk out of Hongayat City in one piece. At that time, Kwang Sonin and the others all had dark expressions. If Lai Van Tiu hadn't stopped it in time, they probably wouldn't have been able to endure it any longer and would have rushed forward to slash him down long ago. Seeing Kwang Nuoc Bang so terrified that the corners of her eyes were red, Lai Van Tiu couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. Although she held the status of the Kwang family's young mistress with an extremely noble position, in the end she still had to face everything alone and fight for her own destiny. He lowered his voice to comfort her. All right, everything is fine now. Leave this sea monster to me. I will drive him away for you. Boo-hoo-hook. Nuoc Bang finally burst into tears, unable to stop herself from throwing herself into Lai Van Tiu's chest, her tears quickly soaking his robe. Before the eyes of tens of thousands of martial artists, she cried out loud without caring about her dignity at all, making everyone's hearts tremble along. They all pitied a woman who had been weak since childhood. Even if she was the highly respected young mistress of Hongayat City, the wheel of fate had never stopped for her. Nguyen Tu Ma's eyes were as red as blood, and he gritted his teeth and shouted, Lai Van Tiu, kill that sea monster for me. Although his heart was filled with extreme bitterness, he had no other choice but to entrust all his pent-up resentment to Lai Van Tiu. While gently stroking Kwang Nuoc Bang's hair, Lai Van Tiu turned to Nguyen Tu Ma and said, don't instigate me. The opponent's background is not simple. How could a southern domain monkey like me dare to mess with the royal family of the 4 seas? It is already a blessing from my ancestors that he didn't casually kill me too. Nguyen Tu Ma raised his middle finger and cursed angrily, I've finally seen through you. You are truly cheap, cheap, cheap. Lai Van Tiu didn't bother to argue. Instead, he laughed out loud, gently patted Kwang Nuoc Bang and slowly pushed her away. Next, he brought her back to the spectator stands. Nine Kangayat reminded him with a serious face, if you can win, don't force yourself. I don't want to see anything happen to you. Lai Van Tiu laughed and replied, rest assured. Although this guy is a bit tricky to deal with, I have already decided to beat him so hard that even his parents won't recognize him. Nine Kangayat was slightly stunned. This guy had indeed inherited a personality no different from his father's. Then she couldn't help but smile. Go for it. Just that single go for it immediately brought a sea of responding voices. In an instant, the entire square was as noisy as thunder. Go for it. Beat him up. Beat him to death. Lai Van Tiu, go for it. Fight for the human race. Beat him until his parents don't recognize him. You're a real man. We are all on your side. Take care of that sea monster. In a flash, everyone exploded with roaring cheers rising high, almost covering the sky of Hong. Do you really dare to stand up and fight me? Nguyen Tuong didn't hide the surge and murderous intent around his body at all, his face cold, and the corners of his eyes carrying a mocking and provocative look. He said coldly, fine, we might as well settle the old score from last time today. Who would have thought that before he could even finish his sentence, he would take another mouthful of spit straight to his face, and this time it was even worse than before. Lai Van Tiu complained in annoyance, while wiping the corner of his mouth with his hand, why are you guys so strange? Last time it was clearly you who wanted to kill me. If we are really calculating grievances, it should be my turn to collect the debt. Why does it seem time again like I am the one who owes you? Nine Kangayat watched the scene before her in a daze, like father, like son. It was as if they were cast from the very same mold. Hump, you are still as shameless as ever. Nguyen Tuong's face turned pale green, and he roared furiously, last time during our fight, someone else intervened halfway, preventing me from torturing you to the end. I still regret that to this day. This time it's the perfect opportunity to settle all the scores at once. Lai Van Tiu didn't waste another word and immediately turned on his heels and ran. Seeing this, Nguyen Tuong was so angry that he gritted his teeth and shouted frantically, stop right there. If I am not mistaken, you must have obtained what I need in the Tower of Arts. This time you'd better hand it over quickly. Lai Van Tiu grinned mischievously, then there's nothing I can do, and besides, I've also got my eyes on a few things on your body. Looking at you being so excited, it's as if you've really turned into a true dragon. Young man, calm down a bit. The few people in the martial arena could not help but be dumbfounded upon seeing this scene, secretly doubting in their hearts and trusting the dignity of the entire human race to this guy to shoulder. Will it really be all right? Nguyen Tuong shouted softly, and a golden light instantly flashed in the palm of his hand, condensing in the blink of an eye into a chillingly sharp battle halberd. His 5 fingers suddenly tightened, and the surging aura within his body exploded frantically, as violent as a turbulent sea spreading in all directions. The terrifying, shocking power caused the surrounding space to continuously crack and shatter, while Li Vantiu's figure also flashed rapidly, his steps light and nimble. He gracefully dodged countless fist forces, his movement technique startlingly fast, so that in the eyes of the crowd below, only flickering silhouettes remained like a flock of butterflies spreading their wings in midair. The offensive was so fast that it dazzled the eyes, yet Li Yongxiao still had to reluctantly confront his opponent's fist force head-on several occasions. Every collision caused his blood and ki to churn violently. Currently unable to use the imperishable golden body, he was simply incapable of directly resisting the opponent with his physical body alone. King Wen frowned slightly. He knew very well that Li Yongxiao's capability absolutely did not stop at this level, and he did not understand for what reason the opponent still insisted on concealing his strength. The surrounding people secretly shook their heads, most of them no longer holding any hope for him. Being able to hold out to this point was already beyond expectation. Yet only Ning Qiu's expression remained as serious as before from start to finish. She knew that Li Yongxiao still had apprehensions in his heart, since his inherited ultimate skills in the moon pupil could not be used. Wanting to defeat such a powerful opponent was almost unimaginable. She had secretly prepared beforehand, ready to take action at any moment. As soon as Li Yongxiao fell into a dangerous situation, she would immediately save him and dispose of Run Sang in the process. She cared nothing for the overall situation of Red Moon City or the so-called dignity of the human race. As long as it was someone she wanted to protect, she would defend them to the end, even at the cost of her own life. Right at this moment, Zhang Chun spoke slowly. Look at your expressions. It seems everyone assumes that Li Yongxiao's current situation is extremely unfavorable, right? Ning Qiu, who was originally planning to intervene, felt her heart tremble slightly upon hearing this and immediately focused her attention to listen. Ruan Hongyu asked in a daze, is it not so? On the martial arena, Run Sang pointed his hand down into the void and Dragon Ki immediately pierced straight through. He spoke coldly, Li Yongxiao, is your capability really only this much? Zhang Chun laughed. No, from what I see the current situation is indeed like that, but look closely at his expression. There is clearly not a hint of panic in his heart. Li Yongxiao was seen frowning repeatedly. He clearly had several methods to resolve that strike, but for a moment did not know how to choose, instead standing in a daze, causing his state of mind to gradually become chaotic. Run Seeing's hand spun continuously in the void and dragon shadows emerged one after another, wrapping tightly around his arms like lifelike flood dragon. The dragon head suddenly bowed and he roared loudly, dragon fights in the wild. The battle halberd tore through the void and chopped straight down, Li Yongxiao's expression changing repeatedly. In the end, he could no longer continue to drag out this battle. He immediately formed a hand seal with one hand, and 5 Northern Heaven Cold Star swords suddenly appeared, quickly condensing into a sword formation in the blink of an eye. Boundless and terrifying sword ki surged forth, crashing directly towards the golden dragon head. A blink later, the two sides collided violently and exploded at the same time. The 5 Northern Heaven Cold Star swords unexpectedly turned out to be 9th grade profound weapons. Ruan Hongyu's heart shook instantly as she clearly felt the terrifying aura emanating from those longswords, which was absolutely unmistakable. They were 9th grade profound weapons. The sword formation was activated immediately. A horrific power instantly enveloped the entire arena, centered on Li Yongxiao and frantically spreading out in all directions. A vortex formed by the blending of sword Q and dragon ki swept wildly, forcing the arena's protective barrier to its absolute limit, almost on the verge of shattering completely. Standing in the middle of the vast ocean of sword ki, Run Sang repeatedly endured torrential waves of attacks, forced to defend with extreme difficulty. Danger after danger pressed upon him, his eyes almost bulging out of their sockets, but at that moment he suddenly saw Li Yongxiao rapidly closing in on him. In Li Yongxiao's hand, brilliant lightning was still churning, and a pestle drawing upon the power of lightning law slammed violently onto him, instantly bursting into countless dazzling bolts of lightning. Great, indeed interesting. Zhang Chun suddenly laughed aloud, his mouth curving with interest. This kid is truly too interesting to be able to hide himself so deeply. Is he afraid we might see through his true identity? Finally unable to hold back, he asked, Qiu, what on earth is this person's background? In her heart, Ning Qiu was also secretly shocked, but on the surface she replied calmly, just a new acquaintance. I have never asked about someone's origin when making friends. Zhang Rubing hurriedly asked, Master, can big brother Yongxiao win? Ning Qiu pondered for a long time. Even she herself could not see which side held a greater chance of victory, and in the end, she could only shake her head and say, both sides have a possibility of winning. There is absolutely no way to predict it beforehand. Ruan Hongyu shook her head repeatedly and said, if we say Run Sang is still deliberately hiding his strength to fight, it would make sense, but he has already deployed 6 9th grade profound weapons. This is almost the most terrifying trump card. Could it be that Run Xiang still holds a card even stronger than 6 9th grade profound weapons? Zhang Chun laughed and said, at first I also thought this guy didn't stand a chance, but looking at the current situation, this kid clearly still conceals quite a few skills. It seems the battle won't be as one-sided as we once thought. On the martial arena, the thick cloud of dust was slowly settling. Run Sang slowly stepped out from the dust screen. Unexpectedly, his entire body was intact, having barely suffered any injuries at all. Scales completely covered his upper body. A look of ferocity flashed across his face, and he spoke coldly, you have finally angered me. I have even dug your grave with my own hands. Hemph, it can only be considered a draw. Li Yongxiao's expression was extremely ugly. He had already guessed that the opponent's scales could neutralize part of the lightning strike's power, but he never expected its defensive capability to be this terrifying. Li Yongxiao's hands quickly formed hand seals, and the Qianqiu Tyrant Saber immediately appeared right in front of his body. Gleams of sharp, cold light continuously flashed across the blade, and the radiating chill was enough to make anyone's hair stand on end just by looking at it. What? Another 9th tier profound weapon has appeared. Nguyen Hongingok was shocked in her heart, secretly speculating whether this person came from Wanbao Tower or the Sea of Soul formation. Even the 7 super forces probably wouldn't dare to flaunt their wealth to this extent. Before she could recover her composure, the surprises were not over yet. She saw Li Yongxiao lightly tap his hands, and immediately 4 more cold star swords swooped down from the air. A bone-chilling cold quickly swept through. The 9 swords seemed to be guided by an invisible force, and a faint array diagram gradually appeared between them. Li Yongxiao said indifferently, "The fun ends here, the real fight begins now." Everyone stood dumbfounded, with their mouths agape and eyes wide open, feeling as if there were not many things left in this world that could surprise them anymore. Nguyen Hongok also secretly calculated that having such a formidable son-in-law did not seem like a bad thing. Zhang Churen was stunned for a long time, then frowned and said, "9th tier profound weapons are indeed numerous, but using too many at once might not be a good thing. In my opinion, none of them can exert much power. Unlike Lu Qingyan earlier, at least he poured all his focus into a single spear." Nguyen Hongok was startled and said, "That makes sense, but possessing so many 9th tier profound weapons is simply too exaggerated, and he can even use them to form a sword array." The 9 swords were simultaneously activated by Li Yongxiao, letting out continuous rustling sounds at the same time as if they were gently trembling. They immediately turned into streaks of flowing light, flying to different positions on the arena. "Sword array, 9 heavens grasping the moon," Li Yongxiao shouted. The array diagram above the sword array immediately pressed down rapidly. The 9 swords automatically formed a sword shape, and a crescent moon condensed on the array diagram, frantically absorbing the heaven and earth spiritual from all directions, sending a terrifying sea of sword ki billowing out. What a terrifying sword array! What kind of devilish formation is this? Many martial artists watching from below the stage were horrified to find that cracks began to appear on their skin, with fresh blood slowly oozing out. What is happening? Doesn't the arena have a defensive barrier? How can the sword qui still penetrate through? Losing half my life just watching a duel. I would rather gouge out my own eyes than watch anymore. The crowd below panicked, quickly circulating their energy to resist the shocking surge of sword QI. An old man on the grandstand said solemnly, "My Sex 9 Yin 9 Yang sword array is already famous throughout the world, but compared to this 9 heavens grasping the moon, it is still a notch below. Such a domineering sword array absolutely cannot be nameless. Could have none you have ever heard of it." Another old man immediately said in surprise, "Your noble Sex 9 Yin 9 Yang sword array is indeed the strongest sword array I have ever seen, yet it still cannot match the 9 heavens grasping the moon. I have been watching the development of this sword array but still cannot fully comprehend it. It is just a pity that the young man's cultivation is still too low, so he basically cannot bring out much of its power." The previous old man continued, "9 is already the limit. If this sword array can go one step further, its power would probably be earth-shattering. This person is currently only a 6-star martial venerable. If one day he enters the martial emperor realm or even reaches 9-star martial emperor and unleashes this sword array again, who in the world would be qualified to resist it?" Everyone's heart trembled secretly. Just looking at the current situation, it was clear that he must have an enormous pool of resources backing him, because deploying so many 9th tier profound weapons at the same time was no ordinary feat. Moreover, based on his current performance, Li Yongxiao's entry into the martial emperor realm was almost a certainty. If he were allowed to continue growing, he would likely become a grand figure on par with a Chang Kong in the future. "Damn it," Run Sang's face paled in horror. At this moment, the sword array in the air pressed him down so much that he could barely move. If the 9 swords materialized and continued to descend from above, he feared that even the dragon scales covering his entire body would be crushed to pieces. He was so angry that his face turned red and he immediately raised his head, letting out a sky-shaking roar. His hands, which had previously looked no different from normal, suddenly began to mutate, gradually turning into dragon claws, and a terrifying pressure immediately spread to the surroundings. The pair of true dragon claws, which made one's spine go cold just by looking at them, suddenly clenched tightly, and a powerful burst of energy was forcefully raised, barely blocking the pouring tips of the sword QI. Are those dragon claws the powerful weapon used to deal with me?" Li Yongxiao looked at him coldly and said slowly, "I remember you still have a pair of dragon horns on your body. You had better take them out and use them too, lest you blame me later for not warning you beforehand." Run Sang's pair of dragon claws suddenly shook violently, and his body's momentum frantically surged with it. Moving freely through the void in just an instant, he easily escaped the area covered by the sword array. He was furious to the extreme. If he wanted to deal with this guy, just taking out the 3 dragon secret treasures would be more than enough. Run Sang immediately leaped up, and a giant dragon claw as large as a bronze basin fiercely clawed straight toward Li Yongxiao. Nguyen Hongok cried out in surprise, "Another dragon secret treasure. No wonder those with the dragon blood body desire it so much. In my opinion, his strength has just soared several times over." Zhang Churen said anxiously, "Rumor has it that if all 9 dragon secret treasures are collected, one can transform into an ancient true dragon and descend upon the world once more. Although rumors are bound to be somewhat exaggerated, it is enough to show how important the dragon secret treasures are. If even the dragon whiskers fall into his hands, I am afraid no one in the younger generation will have the strength to suppress him anymore." Li Yongxiao gripped the 1,000 Years Overlord blade tightly to meet the challenge, but at this moment, he still did not dare to overuse it. The key was that this blade was not yet fully under his free control. If he accidentally exhausted all the origin power in his body due to a minor slip-up, then even if he regretted it to the point of tears, he would not even have the strength left to cry. Right at that moment, Li Yongxiao suddenly remembered a treasure. He raised his hand casually into midair and a pure white orb immediately appeared in his left hand, gently sweeping across the body of the divine blade. What the hell is that? A dragon's secret treasure. Runsang's eyes immediately widened in ultimate shock. As expected, the dragon's secret treasure is indeed in your hands. Give it to me, he roared, greed and desire immediately burning fiercely within him. His dragon claw suddenly extended forcefully and a terrifying shockwave rumbled forward with it. The great blade seemed drenched in fresh blood, its power growing more and more ferocious as a brilliant light erupted. Li Yongxiao's face under the halo of light gradually turned cold, and he curled his lips into a faint smile. Since you desire it so much, come and take it yourself. A layer of blade barrier instantly flung back the shockwave, and 3 ancient Maha runes even appeared on the body of the great blade, which was the sole attack technique recorded on the dragon bone bead. Hit by the strike, Runsang's head spun and his vision instantly turned black, leaving his entire body stunned in place. The dragon bone bead fell accordingly, then immediately reversed direction and flew back into Li Yongxiao's hand. If Runsang's rationality had not been blinded by his obsession with the dragon's secret treasure, Li Yongxiao probably would not have gained the upper hand so easily with a single move. Lu Qingyan's gaze instantly turned solemn, with a clear look of longing deep in his eyes as he muttered, "What on earth is that orb? Why does it give me a feeling no different from a dragon's secret treasure, and even make the bloodline in my body surge and vibrate endlessly?" Zhang Chern spoke with a bitter smile. This kid indeed has strange things all over his body. Each one is terrifying and each one is unheard of. No wonder he has to conceal them so tightly. Ning Qiao's body suddenly froze and she said in a daze, "This posture is indeed very strange." They saw Li Yongxiao quickly forming a hand seal. He continuously changed through several strange postures. To an outsider who did not understand, would look as though he were standing in the middle of the martial arena, dancing leisurely. Those who truly had knowledge saw this and their pupils contracted. Zhang Chern said in a deep voice, "Q, could this be?" As Li Yongxiao completed his final movement, the power of the 1,000 Years Overlord blade also surged frantically at the same time, its aura becoming more and more terrifying. In the sky above the arena, the form of a giant corpse beetle faintly appeared, its heavy body slowly descending. Is this an artifact spirit?" Everyone was stunned, and many muttered in surprise, "I have also seen artifact spirits with my own eyes, but why can this thing exist so clearly like a living entity?" A flash of disgust appeared in Jiang Rubing's eyes and she frowned, saying, "Master, the shape of this artifact spirit is really too disgusting. It's clearly a giant corpse beetle. Li Yongxiao is truly too much, actually using such an ugly thing as an artifact spirit." Seeing that Ning Qiu remained silent and did not say a word, she called out in a daze, "Master." Li Yongxiao coldly locked his gaze on Runsang, his lips softly humming, "1,000 years like snow. Half a night like a dream, a single blade shakes the soul." Ning Qiu's entire body shook with shock. This guy had actually directly emulated her soul-shaking song, substituting a blade for a sword, evolving it into an extremely bizarre soul-shaking melody. As the ferocious blade strike descended, the body of the giant corpse beetle crashed down from the sky, and a huge blade shadow simultaneously slashed towards Runsang. The entire world of blade blended the power of rules and soul attack into one, stacking 3 layers of power to forcefully grind him into ashes. Runsang was alarmed and immediately mobilized all his power to resist, but in just an instant, his body and the physical form of the giant corpse beetle crashed heavily onto the ground, and the entire world of blade light exploded violently as a result, releasing brilliant halos of light. Ning Qiu stood completely frozen. Although Li Yongxiao's blade stance was still far inferior to her soul-shaking melody, it was somewhat similar in terms of spirit, faintly radiating a soul-shaking intent. Zhang Chern was equally astonished. While moves could be copied, how could that exquisite spirit be learned just by wanting to? Zhang Chern was slightly taken aback and said, "Qiu, could it be that you taught him yourself?" Ning Qiu was momentarily speechless. If she said no, then where on earth did Li Yongxiao learn that clumsy soul-shaking tune? However, if she said yes, she would be even more clueless about how to explain Zhang Chern's doubt. "Master, is that sea monster dead yet?" Jiang Rubing's voice was full of excitement, her eyes filled with anticipation. At this moment, the glow on the battlefield gradually dissipated and a deep black pit immediately appeared. Even the arena, which had been refined from profound weapons, was blasted into ashes. Ning Qiu said, "He is certainly heavily injured, but he is not dead yet. The dragon's secret treasure fused with his Dharma body makes his body much stronger than a normal monster body. However, that strike just now must have been the turning point to change the situation. The problem is how long Li Yongxiao's origin energy can hold out. He survived taking a direct hit like that. Then I'll give you another one." Li Yongxiao took a deep breath, and the divine boundary monument immediately flew out of his hand, rushing straight ahead with heaven-shaking power. Yet another 9th-grade profound weapon, everyone thought to themselves. This time no one showed any surprise as they were almost immune to such scenes. Furthermore, Runsang had not lost his life after that earth-shattering blow just now. This guy was indeed terrifying enough to make one's skin crawl. As Li Yongxiao executed one hand seal after another, the divine boundary monument instantly transformed into a small mountain, sweeping along with terrifying pressure to ruthlessly suppress Runsang's position. A trace of surprise flashed in Zhang Chern's eyes. Although both were classified as 9th-grade profound weapons based on intuition, he could still tell that the Divine Boundary Monument was absolutely no ordinary item. The Divine Boundary Monument heavily smashed into the bottom of the pit, and the ground immediately shook violently. The terrifying shockwave caused the earth to shatter and mountains to collapse, as if even Red Moon City was at risk of being flattened to the ground. The expressions of everyone changed at the same time. The power of this strike was not even inferior to the previous one. Heavens, what kind of monster on earth was this kid? He was clearly only a 6-star martial honor, yet his combat strength could rival a 6-star martial emperor. Suddenly, a beam of light shot straight up into the sky from deep inside the pit. It was the divine boundary monument being knocked back, the spiritual light on its surface having dimmed significantly. With a gentle wave of his hand, Li Yongxiao retrieved it. Immediately after, another earth-shaking explosion sounded and a terrifying stream of dragon breath shot high into the air. The deep pit seemed to turn into a dragon's lair, rising and falling rhythmically as if it were breathing in and out. What? Could he possibly get even stronger? Everyone's eyes widened. After bearing the blasts of 2 consecutive profound weapons, not only was he not knocked down, but on the contrary, his strength skyrocketed. How could this battle possibly be fought? Another dragon's secret treasure. Does he really want to gather all 9 pieces to transform into a true dragon? Everyone stood frozen in place, utterly terrified in their hearts. Zhang Chern spoke in a deep voice. This is already his final transformation state. I can feel the blood boiling violently inside his body. There is definitely a limit to fusing dragon secret treasures. Currently, this kid is forcing the fusion by relying on his bloodline power. No matter how many secret treasures he still has hidden, even if there really are more with his current state, it is absolutely impossible to fuse anymore. If he insists on continuing, his body will definitely collapse immediately. Q's expression was extremely ugly as she said, every time he absorbs a rare treasure, it almost helps him recover from his injuries. So how are we supposed to fight this? Zhang Chern replied, it indeed is very troublesome. However, I noticed that Li Yongxiao is not panicking at all. His expression is still as calm as light clouds and flowing water. If that state doesn't stem from absolute confidence, then it's the composure of someone who has weathered countless storms. Once this person truly grows up, he will be terrifying beyond imagination. I can even be sure that in a few decades it won't be too far-fetched for him to become the #1 person in the world.